Welcome to my show. My name is Susan Rushton, and this is AhMuse. This is the show where I am privileged to, I'm thrilled to, I'm allowed to, I get to, I'm tickled to talk with people who have been pushed, caught, taught by the Muse, and who are involved with all sorts of artistic ideas and activity. Today, my guest is Ryan Murray, music director and conductor of the Auburn Symphony. Ryan, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And before we go any further, the Auburn Symphony is available at they have an office at 985 Lincoln Way at room 102 at the State Theater. Their phone number, 530-823-6683, and you can email them at auburnsymphonyoffice@gmail.com. And I urge you to please consider that if you have never done it before. Here is Ryan. Ryan, you are brand new, brand new. You have never conducted the Auburn Symphony in front of an audience before.
That's mostly correct.
Once.
Mostly correct.
Yes.
I did conduct one children's concert about 10 years ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just unfortunately after the tragedy of losing Michael
Yes.
that I came and conducted that concert.
Yeah. Well, Thank you. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
And you also conducted the second symphony, the second production of the three that were made available last year.
That's right. That's right. As part of the search.
Yes,
right.
that was we had to figure out what kind of conductor you were, and lo, you were. And the message I got was that they paid the managers, the people who were involved in finding you, paid attention to not only what the audience thought of the three, but what the symphony, the performers thought of the three.
Absolutely. Auburn Symphony is this wonderful community orchestra, and so what the players think and the enjoyment of the players is really an important part of it. So
yes.
I think they had a lot of weight in the decision.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were as serious about it as they were.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
You clearly knew what you're doing, and also enjoyed it as much as they did.
I did. I had a fabulous week, and I thought, well, we'll see where this goes. But I had a great week with the orchestra.
Oh, great!
And so that's all you can really do, right?
That's wonderful. Okay, so you are a young man. How old are you?
I'm 37.
37.
Yeah.
Okay, and your email has Ryan Murray Conductor at gmail.com.
That's right. Ryan Murray at Gmail was already taken. So.
Oh, okay. So you had to put conductor.
I did,
there.
yeah.
So you're 37, and you live in East Sacramento.
That's right. I'm in the Arden Arcade on the east side of town.
Okay.
So it's not. It's just about a half an hour to get up here to Auburn.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you are our conductor. You are also the conductor of Music in the Mountains.
That's right. I'm the artistic director and conductor for
How long
Music
have you
in the
been
Mountains.
doing that?
Well, I've been at Music in the Mountains since 2008.
Okay.
First as choral conductor, then as resident conductor, and most recently, I think the last 4 years or so as artistic director and conductor.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been quite a long tenure with them.
Yes, and so you do that and us, and what else do you do?
So I'm also the director of orchestra and opera at CSU Sacramento. I'm the conductor of the Sacramento Youth Symphony. I'm the principal pops conductor of the Modesto Symphony and the music director of Opera Modesto.
My director is laughing, is tickled, I think.
It's a full schedule for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell me why. What drew you to music?
Well, I didn't really necessarily have a place in kind of junior high or before that even elementary school. I was trying to find what was my thing, and I hadn't really found it yet. And then in the 7th grade, for the first time, they had free band at the public school. And I thought, well, I think I'd like to play in band. That'd be fun.
Let me try that.
And I was like, well, so what do you play? Well, there's too many saxophones already. So
I do.
Yeah, right.
This.
So you can play the clarinet. And so we went down to the music store and rented a clarinet. And I just was completely entranced with it immediately. I mean, I think I did 8 to 10 hours of practice a day. The first 2 days I got the clarinet. I just couldn't put the thing
And
down.
your parents.
I know. They said, maybe go play outside for a little while. Huh?
Okay.
I'm sure I was squeaking all over the place.
Oh my.
But I just felt this instant connection. I played in the beginning band for a few weeks, and in the 7th grade had the audacity to ask the band director if I could audition for the advanced band. And I did, and he took me into that group, so I switched to the advanced band, and just kind of took off from there.
Huh?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And now, from what I gather, I think you told me, or I saw this on your website, in the symphony website, that you play the bassoon.
Yeah, so bassoon is my main instrument. So I'll tell you the sort of roundabout story here is that I started on the clarinet, and then I thought, I'm going to be a jazz musician. I became obsessed with jazz music, and so I thought, well, the clarinet is kind of jazzy, but not so much, so I started playing the saxophone. So I played tenor saxophone, I played in a Dixieland band, I had a jazz combo, and I played in a big band. And I was playing in wind ensemble at the same time. Then about, I don't know, my junior year or so of high school, someone gave me a recording of the Dvorak cello concerto.
Huh.
And I became obsessed with orchestral music and just could not, what symphony could I listen to next? And so then I thought, well, saxophone is not really a symphonic instrument, but I'm sort of too old to pick up a string instrument and play with the kind of facility that you need. So tenor saxophone is in that sort of tenor range. So what is similar? It's the bassoon.
Uh-huh.
And so I decided to learn the bassoon, and bassoon became my instrument. I went to the All-State Honor Band on bassoon, and then I went to college on bassoon. I played a concerto with our symphony orchestra in college, and I freelanced on bassoon as a professional musician before my conducting career became too busy.
Okay. So you aren't a performer anymore. No, wait. That's not it. You don't play an instrument.
That's right. I mean, I still play the bassoon for enjoyment, and I play the piano quite a bit. For coaching singers and recitals and things like that. But no, I'm a full-time conductor. Yeah.
Yes, full-time.
Full-time and a half.
That's the word. Yeah. And what? So you fell in love with music. What about conducting attracted you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I guess I was always that person that was helping run a sectional, or if the music teacher was out sick, I'd be the one in front of the room, and so I had that kind of, I guess you could say, A-type personality, to want to help out and to want to kind of lead things, and then that just kind of naturally developed into conducting. I was an undergraduate student at Sac State studying bassoon and voice, and a composition student asked me, could you conduct my piece on the composer's recital for a small ensemble? I said, sure, I could do that. And lo and behold, the orchestra teacher was standing in the back of the room at the time and saw me do that and said, I don't have any grad students right now. Would you like to study conducting with me? And so before I finished my undergrad, I conducted 3 operas and a handful of orchestra pieces with the school orchestra and opera.
Huh.
So
Wow.
I say to my students, always say yes to every gig, because you never know what leads to things.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. So, sir, what makes a good conductor?
That's maybe the hardest question to answer of any question in music, because it's very hard to judge what a conductor is doing.
Aren't I wise?
Yeah, it's a great question. There are so many elements that go into it. There's the physical, beating the patterns and going through the music. There's the mental element of studying the music and understanding the composers. There's the rehearsal element of knowing how to make the orchestra sound better, what to say to the orchestra, how to help bring them along. And then there's the personality charisma aspect of how you connect with people and how you connect with the orchestra. And all of those things kind of go into making a good conductor. You also have to have really good ears. You've got to be able to hear the music in your head the way the composer has written it, and compare that to what you're hearing from the orchestra in the moment, and decide, how can I make what I'm hearing closer to what the composer wrote?
Okay. And I can also imagine that F, okay, loud, all right. How loud?
Mm-hmm.
How quick? How quick? And I'm moving off on a tangent here. I remember hearing, enjoying a specific symphony with the Auburn Symphony that I had never heard before, and it was lovely, lovely, made me cry, of course. It looked just beautiful. And then my radio, a couple of days later, woke me up with that symphony played in Sacramento or someplace, the big deal symphony, and they were playing it wrong. It wasn't like the Auburn Symphony had presented it. How do you decide?
Yeah, I mean that's really, I think, 80% of what a conductor does is you sit with the score at your desk quietly and have these imaginary conversations with Beethoven and Brahms and Mozart. And you look at the score and you say, okay, it says forte, it says loud, it says vivace, it means fast. But how fast is fast and how loud is loud? And so you're using the context of the rest of that piece and also the context of everything that composer has ever written to try to answer those questions. You know, an example of that, if we take the Second Symphony of Brahms, the first 8 bars make this 8-bar phrase.
For example, can you?
Yeah, so ti da da ti da 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 da. That's the beginning.
Okay.
And you have to decide, is that a 4-bar phrase? Is that an 8-bar phrase? And how does it work? Well, Brahms writes on the next 4 bars, dolce. And dolce means sweetly. Sweet. And when Brahms writes dolce, he means for a change in the color. And so because the first 4 bars don't have that dolce, and the second 4 bars do, you know they're meant to go together. One is an echo of the other. And so you're trying to find all of these answers by kind of digging into the score.
And you also, I imagine, read a lot about these conductors.
About the composers, exactly, yeah. About their lives, about what they were doing, you know, what they had for breakfast when they wrote that piece.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And yes, what else was happening in their lives? Were they unhappy? Were they going deaf? Were they going blind?
Of course, geez. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It all affects everything. And the more you know a composer, you know, the first time you do a symphony of Beethoven, you need a lot of help from outside sources. You need to listen to recordings, you need to go to performances. But after you've done all 9 symphonies, and after you've studied the string quartets and the piano music, you start to develop a sense of language.
You start to develop. After 9 symphonies and various other things, you start to develop.
I mean, that's the thing that's mind-boggling about these composers, is that as a conductor and as a musician, we make it our life mission to understand their music. And maybe we begin to get close. And they wrote it. You know, they wrote it down. That's the absolute genius of these.
They imagined it,
yeah,
they wrote it.
They wrote it. I mean, and I can barely understand it.
Yes.
You know, it's incredible.
Yeah, and Beethoven finally was deaf, and he continued to write. Yeah. He knew what he wanted.
Most of the great pieces were written after he could no longer hear.
Oh.
It's incredible.
Oh.
It's just incredible.
Oh, my. Yeah, it really was. Yes. Yeah. So, okay, why do you think music is important?
So, there's, I think, lots of reasons why music is important, but if we think about the last 2 years, if we think about this global pandemic, how many things were able to be replaced by digital, by Zoom, by, you know, distance?
Okay.
Music is not one of them. Music is one of the few things in our life now that you have to do in person, that you have to do in the moment, and that requires people to connect with each other on a one-to-one level. And how many things are left that are like that? Not very many. And that's one of the reasons music is so important. It forces us to be in the moment, and it forces us to be together. And I think that's one of the really incredible things about it.
Yes. I was trying to think of a way to argue with you, because as a writer, there's books, but you're by yourself.
Yeah.
You have to have. Yes, you're right. Yeah, that's
this sort of immediate connection, and we feel it with ourselves in the orchestra, but we feel it also with the audience. I mean, I can feel as a conductor from my back how the audience is engaged in the performance. You really get this sense of if they're right there with you, if you're losing them a little bit, and maybe you pick up the tempo a little bit. You can feel that, and I know that many of us as musicians, we did Zoom concerts, we did pre-recorded things, and they were really valuable and really important. But as soon as we got back to being in front of a live audience, we all felt just this immense relief and this immense joy of sharing music with people.
Tell me about your back.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, so you just feel the presence of the audience. And, it's probably like a sixth sense thing, because I'm not looking at the audience, obviously, but I can tell when an audience is engaged, and I can tell when an audience is kind of like, oh, this isn't my favorite piece.
How? How can you tell with this bit in particular?
I don't know. It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling of, well, here's a couple maybe more tangible things. You hear the sound of the room, and you can kind of hear when everyone is afraid to breathe. You can definitely feel that and hear that. You can also, every audience coughs, right?
Uh-huh.
And if you hear incredibly loud coughing as soon as the music stops, it means everybody was holding, waiting, waiting in the moment. But more than that, I think it's just an untangible thing of just this energy that's in the room.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we all really missed that.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm remembering laughing in the middle of something. Oh, shoot. But I guess that's a welcome thing.
Absolutely. I love it when audiences have reaction to what we're doing. Yeah. It's really a 20th century thing of audiences being quiet and not clapping until the end. And, in Beethoven and Mozart and Brahms and Haydn's time, people clapped loudly, people made noise.
Or booed.
Or booed. Or booed. In fact, yeah, absolutely. They weren't afraid to boo.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad people are more afraid to boo now.
That's a good thing, yeah.
Yes. I would like to ask you the question that we talked about earlier before we started.
Mm-hmm.
What is there a topic about your career or about music that nobody ever asks about?
Yeah. So there's sort of two things, and one we've already touched on a little bit, which is the amount of time you spend studying the score, trying to understand the composer. But the other thing people don't often ask about is the programming element of being an artistic director. How do you put a season together? And that's a big part of the job. It's a huge component to pick the music, pick the soloists, fit it all together, and find a season that has things that are traditional and some things that are a little bit new as well. And so that's a big element of being a conductor. And I spent a lot of time working on the Auburn Symphony season. And, we've got some really amazing war horses like Elgar's Enigma Variations and Beethoven's Symphony No. 9 at the Mondavi. And, all these great things, Dvorak's Symphony No. 7, which I think is the best piece he ever wrote. But we also have some new pieces this year. We've got a concerto by a composer from England called Michael Nyman, and our concertmaster Chase Spruill is going to be playing that concerto. He's done projects with Michael before. This will be the North American premiere of that piece.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool, right here in Auburn.
Yeah.
And then we've got a piece by Jennifer Higdon called Blue Cathedral, which she wrote after losing her brother, and it's this beautiful tone poem with these amazing colors. We've got this piece by Markowski called Joyride, which is based on the themes of Beethoven's Ode to Joy and kind of mashed up in this super fast kind of like a crazy car ride type thing. So we've got some really interesting new pieces as well.
Yeah.
And some fantastic soloists. Chase is playing, which would be great. Gabriel Martins, who was the winner of the Sphinx Prize back in 2020, I think, is going to come play cello with us, the Shostakovich Cello Concerto, and he's really a rising star. So all of those things, fitting that puzzle together is a huge part of the conductor's job. And, I end up just my entire studio, the floor is just covered with scores. As I'm like, I think I'll do this piece. And, oh, no, that has 4 trombones, and there's only 3 on this concert, so we'll save that for this one. And, all these
it's
kind of
so
things.
hard to choose only some.
Exactly.
It's a terrible job.
Exactly. But I think, I have a lot of the next season already sort of in mind from things that I couldn't quite fit in this year.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So why do you think music is important, aside from the fact that we
that it brings us together?
Yeah.
Well, I think, we talked about Beethoven and Mozart, and we haven't talked about composers like Florence Price or Jennifer Higdon or Samuel Coleridge Taylor. These composers are the great geniuses of humanity. The absolute best that humanity has to offer. And so when we perform their music, when we perform art music, it gives us a chance to kind of reach for that next level of what it means to be a human. That's above our sort of base instincts. That's humanity at its greatest point. And when we get to share that with other people, it's a collective moment where we all think about how can we make this world a better place. And I think music helps elevate our thinking and takes us to that place so that we can think about, how do we make this planet, how do we make humanity better for the next generations? And I think music is a pathway towards that kind of thinking.
Wow. That sounds pretty high.
It's pretty lofty.
Yeah. Yet, I have had, that sounds so serious. That sounds, and it is serious. This is vital. At the same time, I have had so much fun listening to all kinds of music including the Auburn Symphony. It is fun. It's a delight. It gives me chills, makes me laugh, forces me to cry. And nobody understands what am I doing? Nobody seems to understand. They sort of, but I have to move. Nobody else is moving next to me. But wow, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, music brings joy. It brings joy. It brings laughter, it brings happiness, it can help us process sad emotions as well. That emotional element of music is why it's so important to us. And it's such an important thing for us to have that and to be able to share that.
Yeah. And just because you are promoting the idea of classical music, I'm assuming you are not saying, well, jazz, your jazz, or the blues, or ragtime, that stuff is equally as important to people who love them.
Absolutely. I love the quote that there's only 2 kinds of music. There's good music and bad music. And across every genre you have good music and bad music.
Sure.
Right? But no, yeah. I love all kinds of music, and I think that music is just this partner to us in our life. And whether it's classical music, whether it's jazz, whether it's pop music, and different kinds of music is right for different people at different times.
Sure.
So I think that's, it's so great that we have all of this incredible art to choose from.
Yes. Okay. And I don't think I have this on my list, but what advice do you have for beginning musicians?
Stick with it. I think the first couple years are the hardest. It takes a while to build up the sort of skill that you need to be able to, essentially what we're all trying to do as musicians is we want our instrument, whether our instrument is is a bassoon or a piano or a conducting baton. You know, we want our instrument to be able to put out our musical thoughts and ideas. And it takes a while to build the technical facility to be able to do that. The second piece of advice I would have is listen to music all the time. So if you're learning to be a musician, you want to have music playing in your house all the time, whether it's symphonies, whether it's jazz, whether it's pop. You know, having that in your ear all the time is so important. And then get out and listen to live music. You know, there's nothing like the sound of a live orchestra. And so the more opportunities you have as a young musician to get out and listen to music, the better you're going to be. And make sure you have a great teacher. You know, get connected with a group like Auburn Symphony who knows who the great musicians are, so that they can help you get on the right path.
Yeah. And when you say listening to music all day long, you don't mean sitting there and listening to it. You just mean having it in your life.
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. You know, have some time where you're really focused listening, but the rest of the time just have it on in your life.
Okay.
Exactly.
And what advice do you have for listeners?
For listeners, so this is a great question. You know, if you think about a piece of popular music that maybe the song lasts for 2.5 minutes, let's say 3 minutes. The first time you hear it on the radio, you say, oh, that's kind of nice, I kind of like that song. Second time, I think I really like this song. The 10th time, this is the greatest song I've ever heard in my life.
Okay.
Now think about a symphony. It lasts an hour long. So to listen to that symphony 10 times takes 10 hours. And my advice to listeners is that the more you know a piece, the more you'll love it and the more you can understand it. So if, for example, you're coming to see Auburn Symphony play Dvorak's 7, take some time if you can and listen to the piece 2 or 3 times before you come. Your enjoyment of the piece will just go by tenfold the more that you've heard it before you come. And that's one of the great things about classical music is it just keeps giving. And it's the same for me. I mean, how many times have I heard Beethoven's Ninth Symphony? Maybe 1,000. And each time I go, oh, I never heard that before. I can't believe he came up with that, you know? And so these kind of things, you know, you just can keep digging deeper and it just keeps paying off.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we are talking, Ryan and I are talking on at the beginning of August 2021. 2022. I keep making that mistake. And in September 17th, the symphony is going to do Symphony in the Park, their first presentation of the year.
That's right.
2022-2023. Symphony in the Park is behind City Hall. It's a gorgeous place. It's free. That thing is free in the app. And it starts around 5.
Around 5, exactly.
You can bring food, bring your water, bring your chairs, and delight in symphony outside. It's a lovely situation, and I'm always thrilled to be there. My guest has been Ryan Murray, music director and conductor of the Auburn Symphony. If you're interested in learning more about the Auburn Symphony, and I beg you to be interested in learning more, please log on to Auburn Symphony, auburnsymphony.com. You can contact them at auburnsymphonyoffice@gmail.com. Can they ask you a question?
They can. I believe my Auburn Symphony email is auburnsymphonym@gmail.com. So they could contact me, that music director, Auburn Symphony MD.
auburnsymphonymd@gmail.com.
That's right. Okay. I also have a website, is ryanjmurray.com, or you can search for Ryan Murray Conductor, and there's a contact form on my website, and it actually goes to me. So.
Well, great.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, I've had a wonderful time. Thank you very much for being my guest. And I hope you get an interest in have an interest in the Auburn Symphony. It's been lovely. Thank you very much for watching.